having listened to a lot of people talk and reading different articles and commentaries, I've come to a surprising conclusion. It seems to me that there are a lot of people who believe that God needs to be saved. That's right, it's like they believe that God needs to be saved or rescued, particularly from people who don't believe the way they do. Today I want to talk about that, and as I do, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel as well as to click that bell so you're notified of future videos. First, I want to clarify what I'm talking about and what I'm not talking about. What I'm not talking about are perspectives that try to explain beliefs. For instance, a couple decades ago, Episcopal Bishop John Shelby Spong wrote a wonderful little book called Rescuing the Bible from Fundamentalism. Spong grew up in a more conservative environment and tended to at first read the Bible in a more literal way, the way many people do. And in the book, he explains that the Bible is really meant to be read from the perspective of the different cultures and the history, as well as using different lenses to view stories because the literature shifts from one kind of literature to another. In other words, it wasn't written at our grade level in English for us to understand easily, but conveys multiple layers of meaning. That's really great work, and if you haven't read the book, you may be interested in it. But what I'm talking about are people who think they have the truth, that their beliefs, their dogma, their practices are the really real, the really true, and that they know what God is and what God's perfect will is, and that everyone else needs to follow that. And I have a problem with that because that doesn't make sense to me. If God is really God, if God is really a divine being, then by definition, God's beyond us. God's greater than what we can ever imagine, what we can know. God's just beyond what we can understand. So anything that we say has to be partial. Now, this works out in lots of different ways. I live in Georgia, in the southern state in the U.S., and the predominant religion here is Southern Baptist. And the Southern Baptist Convention really tries to rescue God from everyone else. It's amusing to me when I read in the news that the Southern Baptist Convention sent another letter to a congregation somewhere that they're no longer part of the Southern Baptist Convention because maybe they ordained a woman or maybe they had a marriage for a same-sex couple or whatever it might have been. And the funny thing is, they send letters to churches that are not part of the Southern Baptist Convention telling them that they threw them out. It's incredible. It's like they're reaching across the line, telling somebody who isn't part of them that they're not part of them. In United Methodism, the United Methodists are going through a great divorce between the liberals and the conservatives. The conservatives have decided that they're the ones who really know what God wants, that they have a monopoly on the truth, so they're pulling away to form a new denomination. And it's causing all kinds of havoc for people who are United Methodists. This is happening in Catholicism, where a group of people believe that all the old rituals in Latin are the only ones to use because I guess God only understands Latin. I don't know. They say that the Pope is a heretic and all the rest of the Catholics aren't really Catholics, that the only real Catholics are the ones who attend the Latin Mass. It's just incredible to me that a group of people could say that we have a monopoly on it all. But it isn't just in Christianity. This dynamic is happening in Judaism, in Islam, in Buddhism. It happens among pagan groups and New Age groups. It's not just conservatives that pull away. It's liberals who pull away. But the liberals and progressives tend not to be as well organized as the conservatives. The conservatives somehow get it better organized, so they're more noticeable. So how do I understand this? How do I make sense of this need to really want to save God from everyone else? This need to want people to have the same belief that I have. While often my gut reaction is to really disagree with it, I try to learn to step back and to begin to think about what it means for someone to need to be right, to need to be so rigid in their life, to have a fixed, firm belief of who God must be to such a degree that anyone who has a different understanding of God must be wrong and must be stopped. And I think, what happened to this person? What happened to these people? Is it that life is so confusing, that life is so difficult, that so much tragedy has happened, or that something has happened, that they need this inner security of a belief system that must be true because they don't trust that anything else is true? Could that be it? In other words, I try to look with compassion as to what's behind the motivation here. What gives this all energy? And I'm not saying that I understand it, but I have to look with compassion. Now, of course, whenever this begins to bleed over into the political realm, I need to be politically active and do what I can to minimize damage to other people. But these people, I think, are suffering in some way. So it elicits me to be compassionate. When I look at my own beliefs, I understand that there are things that I do believe and I hold on to, and practices that are very valuable to me and meaningful for me. But I've come to understand that the things I believe and hold on to, they've evolved over time. I'm not sure my 25-year-old self would recognize me in my mid-60s. Life has changed in many ways, and I've grown and evolved. And so I understand, because I recognize my own growth and my own evolution, that how I understand things, they're what's right for me now. Musician Paul Thorne conveys this in a way that's much more poetic than I can. He has a great song that's called "You Might Be Wrong." The chorus goes like this. The words are, "Why do you argue? Why do you fight? Everyone thinks that God's on their side. Count to 10 before you throw a stone. Whatever you believe, you might be wrong." I've come to understand that I might be wrong, or that at least what I'm right about may only be right for me at this time in my life. And that what others need to do, it may be what they need to do and what they need to believe. And I try to support them in what is right for them, recognizing that when it comes to God, at best we see in a shadow. In best we have a vague image. We don't see clearly. We don't understand fully. So we do the best we can. And in that, I think it's important to hold on to something that's probably really is true, because it's found in every great religious and spiritual tradition in the world and has been there over time for millennia. And it's said in some form in this way: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. When we remember compassion, when we remember to treat others with respect, to do to them what we would ask them to do for us and towards us, then I think our positions begin to change and our understanding expands. And it's in that that we have the opportunity to live together in ways that are truly human, that build human community and really live out and support our faith, even though our faiths and beliefs may be very different. Thanks for your time. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, like the video, make some comments, share it with others, and know that I appreciate the time you spend with Spirituality Beyond Borders. Have a great day.